All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. I'm Amanda Marks. I'm the VP of Marketing at Shift7 Digital, and I'm so grateful that you've all made some time in your busy week to join us for this discussion about great customer experiences and building products with our friends at USG. I'd like to start by giving you a brief introduction to each organization you'll be hearing from today and to welcome our speakers. So at Shift7 Digital, we do exclusive work focusing on manufacturers and the B2B manufacturer distributor business model. And over the years, we've done a lot of work in this particular vertical segment with the clients you see listed here. It was fun putting this slide together thinking, you know, within building products, we really have covered the gamut in building supplies from drywall to flooring to roofing and fixtures and HVAC and more. And we're excited today to be joined in conversation with USG, who, if you're not familiar, is a multi-billion-dollar manufacturer of drywall and more, and they're headquartered around Chicago. USG is also a well-awarded name in the space. They've been identified by Gartner's annual Digital IQ Index in the gifted category 2 years running, and have really been ahead of the game in customer-first thinking in building products. So with that overview, I'd like to ask our speakers to join me here. Randy, Chris, if you want to turn your videos on. We've got Chris Howard, who is the head of digital marketing and customer experience at USG, and my colleague, Randy Higgins, chief strategy officer at Shift7. So guys, I will sit back and let you chat, and I'll be back to join you for Q&A at 30 minutes in. And Great. Attendees, please use the chat and Q&A threads to ask questions throughout.
Thanks, Amanda, and welcome, Chris. I really appreciate you joining me here. First, I'm going to set the stage just a little bit on the journey that USG has taken over the past several years as they've gone through a digital transformation that, as Amanda said, has garnered them a lot of awards and certainly a lot of results from a business perspective. And then Chris and I are going to dive in and do a little bit of Q&A to really understand what the value chain looks like in building products and what USG has been doing to enable their customers to really interact and engage with USG effectively, and ultimately, you know, sell more building materials to those customers. So with that, first and foremost, USG went through a corporate strategy exercise, and as part of that, it was identified that digital was going to be critical to their success going forward. So with that, they began to undertake a digital transformation, and a couple of important things. The first was really setting a vision for digital. And the second was really starting to think about digital as a product versus as a set of assets that they could deploy. So there was a real change of mindset in the way that USG approached their customer experience from a digital perspective. So the rallying point was really around it's easy to build with USG. And there were 4 key tenets that we identified as we started to think about customer experience and what we needed to build collectively to really service those customers. So the first one, be responsive. So we really wanted to make sure that we could get information in front of various stakeholders that was important to those stakeholders as they were going through their buying journeys. And as you can see here, we have a number of different personas here, and Chris and I will dive into the personas more deeply here in a few minutes. The second one was really be available. So the understanding that while the USG owned properties were important, there were customers interacting with USG and in other third-party places. So we wanted to make sure that we were omnipresent from a digital perspective, but also consistent from a digital perspective when it came to the experience that USG was providing. The next one was be relevant. And I think this is really where a lot of the focus has been put. And I'm looking forward to hearing Chris's thoughts on this. But we understood that there were a lot of different personas involved in the buying journey for building materials. And we wanted to make sure that we were hyper relevant to those individuals and that we were providing the experience that they needed. So it could be across an architect or a contractor or even a homeowner in certain cases. And finally, the last area that we really wanted to put focus on was to be data-driven. So Chris was a big driver of putting in a robust measurement plan and really measuring everything and understanding what those measurements meant so that we could garner insights and continue from a product development standpoint to be quite agile and be able to continue to evolve as we found out more things from a data perspective. So real quick, when we thought about customer experience, the most important thing was really knowing who the customers were. And you can see some representation here of how we thought about that. But there were both external and internal stakeholders that were going to need to be serviced from a customer experience standpoint. And then finally, the other piece was really to understand what the journey was for each of those personas. So how did they need to interact with USG and what value adds could USG provide to those personas from a digital experience standpoint? So I think when we think about the customer journey and the customer experience transformation that USG has undergone, really a lot of it has to do with really understanding customer need and providing great tools and services to those customers. So without further ado, I am going to start, Chris, with some questions about the journey that we've undertaken together. And you and I have been working together for many years now. And I'm excited to get your perspective on this space.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working, now for about 3.5 years, and, when you look at what kind of has happened over the last 15 months, I think, if you look at COVID, and how that's really changed the way we do business, I think, as many of us have found. But, we're a 120-year-old manufacturing company. We, internally refer to ourselves as a belly-to-belly business, right? I mean, we are relationship-driven, both internally and externally. And so, COVID and the fact that we can't communicate with our customers, face-to-face, really took our business culture and really, it really put it on its head. And so we had to adapt. And I think a lot of companies have had to adapt to that. And we're, I think, very fortunate. The stars seem to have aligned for us, really with, I think, our ability to manage through COVID was a lot smoother than it could have been. And a lot of that is a lot of the work that we've done, right, together as a team. So that strategy, really reshaping our digital strategy 3 years ago, letting us focus more on the customers, who those customers were, really trying to personalize that content and focus on the tools and resources that they need in their life cycle has been very helpful for us. I think, with COVID, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the digital marketing team and our IT team and the team at Shift, who's, really been terrific over the last, 15 months. If you look at the amount of pressure, the added eyeballs, extra focus that's been on us and the ask, because everything has kind of, at least temporarily, kind of seemed to have moved to a 100% digital relationship. It's been stressful. It's been terrific and great to know that we've been able to connect with our customers. But that roadmap that we started 3 years ago and the timing of COVID has certainly been, the alignment has helped us, I think, better connect with our customers.
Absolutely. And I think for us collectively, it was fortuitous that we had put a lot of this groundwork in place prior to the pandemic and the disruption it created. But I think I'd also say it's never too late to start for those in the audience who maybe are just beginning their journey. I think we've seen some fundamental shifts in the way that business is going to be done that will continue. And so never too late to start. So with that, Chris, I want to get a little tactical for the audience and really talk about what you guys have done, who you've done it for. So maybe we'll start first with the who. Customer personas, I mentioned earlier, you guys have a residential business, you have a commercial business. There's a lot of people in the value chain that get your products into buildings. Can you talk a little bit about some of the personas and stakeholders that you've really put focus on, and maybe any insights you've had on priorities around those in terms of, we found the contractor to be the most important person in the buying journey, or we've really put a lot of focus on the architect?
Yeah. When we, did our redesign and our strategy 3 years ago, we really took a look at the personas, and, really when you look at it, we've got a number of products that we sell, and we sell to a number of personas and customers, right? So it's a very linear process for us, and it kind of starts with that design piece. So when you talk about design, you talk about architects, and within architects, that's a generalist term, right? You've got structural engineers, you've got interior designers, you've got specialists who are focused on, acousticians, and it's just, probably 24 different players within that market space. And that's, the first part of it. And then it kind of hands over to contractors, right? So the contractors, they could be the project managers on the job, they could be office personnel, the actual installers who are doing it. So again, that's a different set of personas, all kind of lumped into contractors. And then you talk about distribution. So we've got, our distributors, our major dealers and distributors. We also have the retail side of things, which kind of, with the first kind of conversation, when we kicked this off talking about COVID, those retailers and those do-it-yourselfers has been, a significant lift in what we had seen from historic levels, and we can talk about that a little bit. And so that's also, a persona, the do-it-yourselfers. And then, and you had it on the slide, but, we do have internal stakeholders, right? Primarily it's sales and customer service. But, they're the ones who we need to make sure that we're providing for the end customer the tools and resources they need, the personalized content, so that those sales reps and customer service reps have less on their plate and they can focus more on the task at hand.
That's awesome, Chris. And I know, as you said, the market has shifted a little bit and frankly accelerated in many ways for building materials during COVID. And it's been interesting to watch the engagement from a residential construction perspective with you guys, and really understanding, the throughput with the big box, hardware and, Home Depots and Lowe's and those types of stores. Just to watch the throughput has been really fascinating. So with all those personas, I think the next step was really to understand their journeys and what they needed in order to do their jobs or perform their tasks effectively, right? Can you talk just a little bit about how you guys incorporated the idea of customer journeys into what you ultimately have prioritized from a tools and features perspective?
Yeah. So, when you look at it, one of the things that we tried to do is we really tried to do, scenario mapping, right? And it's kind of broken down into 5 major areas, but, it's looking at the persona is kind of that first piece, then understanding what their motivation is. 3, what's the intent? What is the intention? 4, what action are we asking them to take, or what action do they need to take? And then 5, is kind of that resolution, right? So that's your standard kind of scenario mapping. And, if you look at it, and we can take it, and talk about a do-it-yourself, or you'd mentioned kind of the retail side of things. So, the persona is a DIYer, right? That weekend warrior, that person who's at one of the big box retailers. Their motivation is, let's say that they're trying to renovate a bathroom, right? Which is relatively straightforward, right? What's the intention? the intention is they need to figure out, they've purchased, our Durock, with EdgeGuard product, and they don't know what side it should go on, right? So there's the big Durock name on it. Should that face the wall or should that face the center of the room? And that's the challenge. So their action is to Google it, right? They Google it. That's the number one FAQ that we get. What side should that Durock name be on? The answer ultimately is it doesn't matter. The preference would be that it would be on the outside, but it doesn't matter. It works both ways. And so that's kind of the resolution. You've got the answer, and now they can go and actually complete the task at their home. So when you look at that, that's a customer journey. And it doesn't sound like a customer journey, but when you kind of think about it from that scenario mapping, we've got that as kind of a major focus for us. So we've tried to understand where these customers might be, and it impacts it. What's really interesting, right? I mean, that Google search, that opportunity to come to us, that's on the weekend. And it's coming in most cases on a mobile device, right? So as you start talking about the opportunities on the weekend, our audience is primarily do-it-yourselfers or very novice contractors. During the week, it's a lot of architects, it's a lot of dealers. And so in that scenario, we want to make sure that we're providing the right information to the right customers. And that's based on device, that's based on time, and all those other factors.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. That's good insight. One of the things, just to get really tactical now, based on what you guys discovered as you were mapping out those scenarios and thinking through your customer journeys with USG, I think everyone wants to know, what do I need to build to create an effective customer experience? You guys have a number of properties, both public facing as well as authenticated properties that a customer can come into and accomplish certain tasks with USG from a self-service perspective. Can you maybe talk about some of the key tools and features that are really important across your USG.com, the design studio piece within that, and then maybe even a little bit into the My USG portal that you guys have created, because I think you're really on the leading edge in terms of providing great tooling to the commercial side of your business and really the customers that are ultimately going to drive a lot of revenue for you, right?
Yeah. So I'm taking my notes with your questions, just like an interview here, Randy. So yeah, let me start off with, when we kind of talked about that customer life cycle, it's that design phase, and that design phase is the architect, and they're looking for certain information on the website, right? So we know they're usually coming Monday through Friday. We know that they're typically on a desktop, so we understand what that user experience is, but they're coming looking for BIM assets, right? They're looking to design and making sure that the assemblies that they're using meet the certifications that they need. I mean, you can do an example of, an architect coming in and they need to design for a commercial space, a stairwell, right? So they're going to come into our design studio area. They're going to look up a certain assembly, and they're going to make sure that they design with those specifications in mind, and again, that resolution, if you kind of follow that scenario mapping, is that the architect is designing correctly, and hopefully they're going to specify with USG's product, right? That kind of gets handed off as this kind of life cycle continues. And now let's talk about, that contractor, right? So we just redid our submittal builder tool last year, and it's been just terrific. The feedback has been wonderful from our customers and from our sales reps, where when that contractor or even that dealer gets the opportunity to submit that job, right? So they're now trying to bid for it. They need to fill out a lot of paperwork, right? And so that submittal gives us the opportunity to help walk them through that process. And so in that redesign, really focused with that customer in mind, we wanted to make sure that, one, they could find the products that they were looking for, with ease, right? So that unified, experience, we made sure that rather than taking them off of our website, which we had done historically, we wanted to make sure that the navigation and the elements were consistent so they knew where to find those products. And then once they were in there, this new tool allows them to combine a number of documents. And then again, with the focus groups and doing the voice of customer, we found that after they did that, a lot of times they'd have to highlight content. A lot of times they'd have to make some text edits and changes just to highlight and call some things out. And with this new tool, they can do that all within that submittal builder, which is terrific. And we also looked at, if someone were to come in and they, maybe one of our competitors was in that specification that was then delivered to the contractor or the dealership, they could then swap that out, and they can do a side-by-side comparison, highlight those elements, and then they can do a pre-bid or post-bid, and it auto-populates and pre-fills all of the information that they need. Again, trying to make it easier for these customers to use USG products. So you kind of look at that design piece in front with Design Studio, the contractor, with our submittal builder tool. And then, the final piece is really, to your point, then that dealer. And so with the dealer, we've got myusg.com, which is a B2B portal for those customers. And really what it does is it allows us to have better connectivity with the dealer in that distributor network, right? So those tools mean that we're hopefully going to be able to offer our dealers the ability to better purchase products with us, to better manage their invoices, to run reports, to track shipments, to get pricing lists updated. Really just making sure that we're there for them, to give them the tools and resources that they need. That's a new initiative for us this year, partnering with you to help make that happen, and very excited about what that is going to look like between now and the end of the year. It should be night and day.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw you a little curveball here now, Chris, because something you said really caught my attention. You guys are a diversified manufacturer. Your core business is wallboard. That's highly specified. It needs to match from a submittal perspective. But you also have a line of highly designed products in your ceiling business. Is there any nuance that you've found on the customer journey between high design product and more the building stock products that you sell?
Yeah, that's a great question, Randy. Completely different, customer journey when you really look at it, right? If we're talking to architects who are using, our specialty ceilings and our Ceilings Plus ceiling line, I mean, the sky's the limit. It's a lot of times they get in touch with our architects, that we have on staff to help them take their vision and actually create that vision. Sometimes we get it in complete form and just really make that work. But that's all done, in a completely different relationship, very sales, driven, making sure that we've got the open lines of communication and we're just sharing a lot of content and data. And then you kind of look at, the other side of things, and to your point, wallboard. It's not nearly as personalized. It's relatively straightforward, and so that is obviously there's the sales element where they're supporting the end dealer or the contractor who's trying to get the materials, but the relationship and what they're providing is different, right? It's less consultative, it's more support and making sure that we're helping those customers get what they need and they have all the information. Talking about the shipment dates and talking about inventory and all those other components. So, a completely different scenario. The sales teams are, fantastic, but really the skill set and what they're doing on a daily basis with their customers is completely different.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm gonna close out with one last question for you, Chris, and maybe we can even think about it a little bit in terms of the designed products versus the building materials part of your business. But what's next from your perspective? We've put a really great foundation in place. As you said, you've got this partnership with IT, so you've got all the foundational technology and pipes in place now, and that was a heavy lift early on, I know. And now it's a product, and you're constantly evolving it and thinking about what's next. So let's chat a little bit about what you're seeing as big opportunities out there that you haven't maybe done yet or have done partially and would like to enhance.
Yeah, it's interesting, when you talk about the design side, right? So we get an awful lot of questions, very technical questions from architects and structural engineers. And, one of the things that we're trying to do, we're actually launching a new technology platform that's going to allow us to respond a lot faster to a lot of these questions. There's just so much detail and so much information that they're looking for in making sure they design correctly, and really, USG is the gold standard and resource, on how to build. So really taking all of that legacy information and utilizing, technology in order to get that to the customer. And so when we get those questions, between now and the next couple of months, we should see that turnaround decrease significantly and just better, support our customers. I think the My USG piece that we talked about briefly is critical for us, right? It's really important that we have a portal for our customers that delivers to their needs and just makes it easier to do business with us and better manage their own business. So that is, a key initiative for us as we kind of look at it. And really, I think, holistically, it's finding and building the right tools for our customers. And, you had talked in one of the earlier slides about analytics and, really keeping the voice of the customer at the top of our mindset as opposed to the voice of management. And a lot of times it's talking to the customers and they see things differently than maybe, people internally and inside those walls feel. So we want to make sure that we're building, some really important tools and resources for the customer. And some of those are in flight now, and we'll have some exciting, launch information coming to customers in the next few months. Others are a little bit further out there, right? And, when we look at that too, those tools and resources, some of it's for architects and the design side, making sure that we're in, systems that they're using, making sure we're accessible so that they don't have to stop what they're doing and come over to USG.com. Some of it's really talking about the contractors, and making sure that they can identify the appropriate products for their jobs and move a little bit, faster. And then there's, the dealer side and My USG. So, we've got a lot of things in flight. It's really trying to utilize technology in the right manner to, again, help the customer. And so we always have to, continue to do those follow-up conversations and really make sure that the line of communication is open with the customer, as well as internally. But, a lot of times, I think we've found ourselves shifting our strategy based on what we had assumed our customers wanted after interacting and working with them. We find it's different. A good example is we're actually going to be, putting out there kind of this test pilot in a couple of locations. It's a dealer kiosk, and it's a big touchscreen, opportunity within our dealer network to be able to identify the right ceilings tile. And there's a couple of different components that you can do, and one of them is kind of build and remodel the space, and it offers, acoustical properties to the customer, so they can hear in store what it would sound like if it was open plenum and there wasn't anything there, and what it would sound like with the acoustical properties of the specific ceiling tile that they've chosen. And it's a differentiator. It really makes a big difference, and you can really understand it a whole lot more after you hear it. And so that was not originally part of the scope and what we had anticipated for this dealer kiosk. But based on the feedback, based on those user groups, and really better understanding and connecting with the customer, they felt that was really an important piece. And so far, it's proven to be a powerful tool for the end customer based on the analytics.
That's awesome. Anything else from a data perspective that's surprised or delighted you along the way? I know you've had a lot of success. As I mentioned, it's you're highly awarded and recognized across Gartner and Forrester and a number of your software vendors, et cetera, in terms of being a real innovator. Is there anything else that pops to mind that surprised you along the way, or that you've really been pleased with the way that the results turned out?
Yeah, we're really with the analytics that we have today. We're really helping shape some of the strategy with the internal business teams. So it's not just, hey, we have an idea, we want to do something. It's helping let the analytics shape our direction and our focus. I would say one of the most interesting pieces that we've kind of come along, with COVID over the last 15 months or so, is just how different the customer looks to us, right? So we used to see a significant dip on weekends because, again, we weren't just that, we didn't see that many do-it-yourselfers. And I think, one of the differences that we've found is there's a lot more questions being asked on our website. There's a lot more traffic on weekends. And there are a lot more people just doing general renovations in their own home, trying to figure out how they should properly, mud. How do you properly hang, drywall? So we've got a lot of videos that have been getting a lot of play, just very simple video tutorials on how to remodel if you're a beginner or a novice. And, we'll see if that continues, as the country starts to open back up after COVID. But it would be nice if we continue to see some of those do-it-yourselfers. It's not as difficult as it looks, and just takes a little bit of time you got to get your hands dirty.
Yep. Perfect. Well, with that, I think we want to open it up, Amanda, for some Q&A. I encourage everyone, USG.com. It's a really great experience that Chris and his team have driven with their IT partners. They have a really awesome tool set under Design Studio. Really a great leader in this space. So, Amanda?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Great discussion between you that everyone was able to observe. We did this webinar truly live, hoping we could have some good conversation with some of you that are attending. This isn't one of those polished pre-recorded things. So I thought I'd kick us off with one question, and then folks that are listening, if you want to chat or raise your hand, would love to have you pop in and have a live conversation with these two. Chris, as I was listening, I was thinking about the folks that are so much earlier in their journey than where you've gone. You mentioned it's been 3 years in the making. Certainly, like what you've laid out is a vision where so many folks want to get to, but it feels so daunting. What would you tell someone that's much earlier, just listening to you, wanting to get there, but it feels so far away? How would you recommend somebody just get started? And especially, I think often we hear gain that initial buy-in and funding that you need to get going.
Yeah, we did a lot of work, early on, and we continue to do, a lot of investigative work to really understand what the pain points are. And, I think that's the first thing you need to identify. What are the pain points and what are the areas of opportunity for you? And then based on that, to your point, it's like, as a result of not doing anything, what is that impact to the business? What is the impact to the company? And so, some of that could be because you don't have the capability online. They're calling customer service, they're calling sales, and that's taking them out of their flow to answer questions that could be done, as a self-service solution online. So you can try to come back to an ROI on what correcting it would do to the organization. I think the other big thing for us is you've just got to chunk it out, right? And when you look at starting from scratch, or depending on even where you are, it's a daunting task list of things that you need to achieve, and that's ongoing, right? Even with just the maintenance of business kind of solutions. So you just need to chunk it out, take it easy. When you have a success, record it, understand it, follow the metrics, watch it, continue to come back to it and see how it's performing. It's not just a one and done kind of a solution, but you really just, I think, have to have those chunkable kind of components, within that roadmap to help you deliver and focus. Because if you look out and you say this is going to take us 2.5 years, you lose sight of all the different things that you can do along that roadmap in order to help the customer.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on that, when Chris and I first started working together, there was a really large vision document from a management consulting company that had worked at the corporate level. And one of the things, it was dozens and dozens of pages long and really visionary, but we needed to turn that into something that was actionable and incremental. Because we were never going to execute if we couldn't figure out how to take the first step. And I think that was probably the first exercise that the collective we went through was, okay, what are the 20 things that we want to develop first, and how do we turn that into a release that's going to be meaningful for our customers, for our business, but also is consumable. So I think spot on, Chris. I remember those exercises well. And we continue to do that to this day, frankly. Yeah. Again, it's a living, breathing digital product. So every couple of months, there's an assessment of what should be next, and is it executable?
Great answer. It looks like we've got a question from John. John, I was able to enable your cam. Would you like to join us and ask it live?
Come on, John.
Or I can ask if you're not. Julie, I'll unblock you too. Oh, here comes John.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
Randy, good to see you again. John Guerra.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah, Chris, I was interested in, so many industries right now are experiencing issues with supply. I imagine USG is experiencing those same sort of issues. And I was wondering have you had to implement anything new in your customer experience to account for that? When product lines that were very stable over the years in the past have become more unstable. Have you had to, implement anything either through the customer service channel, through the online experience? Have you had any experiences like that, and any insight you could share?
Yeah, it's definitely, a challenge today, as you noted, right? So we certainly have tried to be as transparent and communicate to our customers, and a lot of that's done through the sales force and the sales team. There are enhancements and updates that we're trying to make to, certainly the purchasing process, to set the appropriate expectations of what inventory looks like and what the reality is of them getting that delivered, on time, right? We, I think, took for granted the fact that we could get something out the door very quickly, and now we just, I think, are setting those expectations differently based on, that supply chain and better understanding that. So I think it's, we haven't done a tremendous amount. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a lot of customer, service and sales communications, and then really just trying to rework what the inventory numbers look like for us, and trying to relay that before anyone tries to get into a transaction experience with us.
Okay, great.
I think there's a lot of initiatives, John, this year around really enhancing the customer experience on the My USG portal. And I think a lot of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, has to do with making sure that timely back office data, supply chain, et cetera, is exposed to customers so that transparency is in place. Because like most manufacturers, USG has an ERP, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard to get information out of an ERP. And I think, really like making sure that the piping is in place so that transparency can be provided to customers is a big initiative for this year to continue to enhance that.
Great. Thank you both very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Looks like we've got another question from Julie. Julie, you want to hop in? Let's give her a sec.
This is fun, Chris. I've not been on a webinar where we can have guests pop in.
I know, live Q&A like this.
I think it's way more fun this way. Well, I can make it on and ask her question. Her question's about personalization, Chris, and how that plays into your strategy. Do you mainly have personalization just on logging into the portal? Do you do personalization on the .com site, for even someone that's not yet logged in? How do you think about that?
Yeah, personalization can I think be looked at from a lot of different perspectives, right? Personalization just from being able to know someone's first name in an email, making sure that you sync up their appropriate sales representative in the the bottom of that email if you're sending out larger communications. It's just trying to make sure that when you drive certain traffic to our website, whether it be through paid search or even organic, that you're trying to put them on a page that's more specific to them based on their profile. And some of that's based on, in session and what they're currently performing, so that you might be able to recommend and push them to different content. For us, we've been really trying to focus on making sure that if you're a contractor, that we've got the information for you and kind of a journey on our website that lets you find the information you're looking for a whole lot faster and easier than, say, an architect, because they might not be looking for that information. That architect journey might offer information in a different manner, right? And that's, in some cases, it's building different solutions and different kind of web portals for them. So, Design Studio was really created for the designer, the architect. And so those files and the assets and the information is there for them in a different manner. Now, that doesn't mean that an architect or that a contractor couldn't go and find that same information. They might perform a search and look for it on USG.com, which has a different user experience. So I think a lot of it is that, but the personalization piece as well. Obviously, once you log into the My USG portal, we have a tremendous amount of information about who you are, and we've got the capabilities to do predictive, intelligence. We've got the ability to personalize the content, making sure they understand what they've ordered previously and maybe recommend additional content. So it offers up a whole new world for us, an opportunity. That's something that our team just took over this year, and we're definitely looking to personalize that at a whole nother level, and capabilities then to continue to follow up with customers digitally based on their profile and what we know from the My USG portal.
Perfect.
Perfect. Other questions or folks that want to hop in and ask a question?
I actually saw a question come across, Amanda, on syndication, Chris, and how you guys are looking to potentially service your channels, probably both, they didn't specify, but probably dealer, retail, distributor, all three. But I know you've talked a little bit about the importance of Home Depot and Lowe's and other big box retail. So any insights on how you guys are thinking about syndication or other ways to service channel? And I know you mentioned some in-store experience as well.
Yeah, when you look at us, we certainly have the capability to control, the platforms and the entities that we own. And we kind of talked about those, right? It's USG.com, it's myusg.com, it's marketing automation, it's social media. While we don't own those platforms, we certainly control the content. The shift now is really trying to control the narrative in that larger digital ecosystem. And syndication gives us that capability, right? So it'll be a consistent story and message no matter where you are, whether you're on our website, whether you're on Home Depot, whether you're on one of our other distributor websites. That content, that information, that messaging should be consistent, and also equally as important, because we're in the building industry, right? It's up to date and it's correct and it's accurate. And so we are looking to make a major push this year in terms of syndicating our content out and automating it. It hasn't been automated in the past, but that automation gives us the capability to just better manage it. So, one of the things you guys helped us with, when you guys came on board 3.5 years ago, was we did create a PIM, or we launched a PIM on our platform, product information management tool, that now is that source of truth for us. And that just opens up a world of opportunity for us to more easily send that content in the appropriate format to those parties. And it could be API feeds. Some of it is still a little bit archaic, and it's just kind of creating what they call a quick sheet, so that it's more or less an Excel spreadsheet that really is formatted so that someone can ingest it very easily and update content on their website. So yeah, syndication is a big play. It's really, I think it's, again, controlling that digital narrative a lot across the larger ecosystem. And fingers crossed it goes well this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we've got one more. Maybe this will be our final question, unless there's anyone else that wants to hop in live, which I'd love for you to do. Around technology choices. There are so many different technologies in play and what you've built. How have you gone about the process of evaluating and making those decisions?
The whole tech stack conversation comes up on a regular basis, right? As we continue to try to push the envelope, as we try to bring in new resources and tools for our customers, a lot of times it means that we're bringing on new technology platforms that we weren't using before. We have a terrific IT organization, and we partner with them so closely. They really help us try to figure out not only what the proper, kind of taking it a step back, what the opportunities are, right? So who are those appropriate vendors and software solutions and platforms we should be looking at? Then really, how is it going to be implemented? A lot of times we look to our friends here at Shift7 to help us with the implementation. And then really it's the scalability or sustainability of that platform, right? Are we positioned when things occur that we might want to upgrade, problems occur? Who's going to be the person or the people that are going to go in and help us, correct those bugs and maybe give us those enhancements? And that's really part of the conversation. We couldn't do it on our own. We could bring in, 10 different platforms and different ideas, but, then when something breaks or if we're trying to do other things with it, we just wouldn't have those resources. So it's really, for us, it's been a terrific relationship with us, IT and with Shift kind of helping in the interim there as well, making sure that we're structured correctly and we've got platforms for us that, work now and should work in the future.
I know one of the big drivers from an IT perspective has been to try and move to the cloud as much as possible, right, Chris? So, with Salesforce providing a lot of the infrastructure for the authenticated experience as a cloud SaaS platform, you've got your customer experience platforms now moved over to the cloud, and you've been able to put a lot of the take advantage of the product roadmap of those companies as well, as they're launching new feature sets.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Great. Awesome. Well, that is a wrap on our 45 minutes. Thank you, Chris and Randy, for your time and presenting. Thanks to all the attendees for joining us. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.